Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit tre.radio.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
It is Tuesday, the 6th of February. Listening to Viewpoint, Talk Radio Europe's current affairs programme. We're discussing with a panel of invited guests with you for the next 2 hours. If you want to get involved with today's show, got something you want to get off your mind, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And let's have a look at the papers this morning. It is Tuesday, the 6th of February. The main headlines, of course, is the King's cancer diagnosis featured on all of Tuesday's front pages. The Times, the Daily Telegraph, the Daily Mirror, the Daily Express and the Sun have the same picture of the monarch in a blue chalk striped suit, which was taken during his state visit to France last year, but released by the palace on Monday. The Sun describes the nation as being in shock. The Eye reports the announcement abandons royal protocol. The Times reveals that insiders felt the news could not stay secret for long, given the King had started attending treatment. But commentary on the front of the Telegraph says it's typical of the King's openness that he would share the news. The Mirror says doctors hope it will encourage those with signs of the disease to seek treatment. A GP in the paper writes it shows cancer is indiscriminate and there's no shame in seeking help. The Times understands the disease has been caught at an early stage. Analysis inside the paper says by not revealing the type of cancer he has, the King is arguably throwing his arms around everyone with any variation of the disease. But it also says it runs the risk of many assuming the condition is more sinister than the palace is letting on. The Daily Mail, the Metro and the Daily Star are among the papers to mention that the Duke of Sussex is due to fly back to the UK. The Mail asks whether the King's diagnosis will spur a reconciliation between his sons. The Mirror's royal editor says those close to Prince Harry routinely stress to him the desire to repair relations, and says the King has constantly declared his love for his children, but the piece always says the Prince of Wales still feels aggrieved by his brother's statements and is unlikely to share the confidence of some palace staff that love conquers all. The Guardian is one of the few papers not to feature a picture of the King on its front page, instead of choosing one of Taylor Swift, who it says made history at the Grammys by becoming the only artist to win Album of the Year 4 times. Those front pages, again, dominated by the diagnosis of cancer for the King. Metro, King has cancer. The Times, the King has cancer. The Daily Express, King starts treatment for cancer. Monarch is wholly positive about his care for an undisclosed cancer. The Guardian, King Charles diagnosed with cancer, palace says, and also record breaker. Taylor Swift makes history as women dominate the Grammys. Meanwhile, the Eye, King Charles diagnosed with cancer. Prince William set to increase his royal duties. Daily Mail, Charles cancer bombshell. Charles is so grateful they caught it early. The Mirror, King's cancer shock. The Sun, King, I have cancer. Star, King Chaz, I have cancer. Harry to fly in after shock news. The Daily Telegraph, King has cancer. And the FT, stepping back, King diagnosed with cancer. Those are your headlines on this Tuesday, the 6th of February.
Viewpoint
with Giles Brown.
952-78-4000. We are back with Viewpoint. I'm delighted to say we're joined in the studio this morning. Not on a boat somewhere serenely on the Thames, but here live in the studio. It is the Woke Finder General. Delighted to say we have Rex in the studio. Rex, good morning to you.
Good morning, Spain, and good morning, Giles. Lovely to be back.
Good to have you with us. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put you on the other microphone. There we go. Try that one, because that's going to be better. Try that now. Here we go, live. Yeah.
Good morning, Spain, and good morning, Giles.
Marvellous. And
Microphone swap.
microphone swap. How are you finding these fair shores?
I'm finding them, as always, thoroughly entertaining, relaxing, and in awe, generally, of where the coast is and its infrastructure. I've been visiting places. I think somebody told me it's the dark side of Malaga, the other side of Malaga. I went to that restaurant that was on Gordon Ramsay's show, called Tintoria or something. We went there. It is the most exciting, and we hit their 60th birthday celebration. All the TV, Spanish TV was there. We were all on the telly, and it was rowdy, and it was Spanish, and it was wonderful. The food was out of this world. I highly recommend it.
You've got a lease of life there, Rex. I must say, you've got your thinking back. And joining us again, Eleanor Mackenzie. Good morning to you, Eleanor.
Good morning, Giles, and good morning, Rex. Lovely to meet you.
Yeah,
You
indeed.
too, Ellen.
And Claudia de Torre will be joining us a little bit later on in the show today. Have you got your microphone, have you got your headphones? Right? Are you going to do it without? There we go. Now you see. There we go. How's that? Am I coming through loud and clear? All right, there you go. So, just a few bits and pieces coming out. We're not. I had just had an email saying, "I hope you're not going to spend the whole program going on about Charles." No, we're not going to spend the whole program going about Charles, but a few words which would surely not go amiss. Rex, I'll let you on this one. So on this one.
Well, as Ellen and I were just discussing before we came on air, sadly, there's obviously something more about what's going on. I mean, talk about a flurry, a panic of news last night. And I think the telltale sign probably is that Harry is on his way over or has arrived or whatever. I think that should be taken as a serious marker, perhaps, as to what actually is going on. And then, of course, there's speculation of what type of cancer he's got and how serious it is. I mean, I listened before I left earlier to Nigel Farage nitpicking the letter from the palace on GB News last night, I think.
Right.
And but he tried to sort of blow it up, but he couldn't really put any meat on the bone, so to speak. It's highly speculative as to what is going on. But surely, and I say, fingers crossed, that it can't be that rapid and it can't be that serious, or is it?
Well, I mean, George VI, his was, of course, grandfather's great. Yeah, his grandfather was a very heavy smoker, wasn't he? Of course. So
Well, he died of smoking-related diseases. Charles's lifestyle, I think we all know, is quite good. Is very good. I mean, he's not a big drinker. He doesn't smoke. He's always worried about his diet.
Yeah.
He has special food cooked for him. So, but the problem with all of us, life is a lottery, and people become ill. The fittest people in the world become ill. But why do they come ill? And I've always said, which is a real conundrum, why doesn't the man who owns the health food shop live forever? I mean, he's selling us all these goodies. But why doesn't he live forever?
It's the stress of getting the orders in on time.
So I'm afraid health is a lottery.
Yeah, well, I mean, also the Queen had a cancer. She had cancer during her life.
But is cancer hereditary? Is it genetic?
Well,
That's what you've got to ask yourself. I know, because I've had a little bout myself.
Yeah.
I was lucky. I was very lucky.
And again, the thing is, I suppose it will be, by making this statement early on, I suppose, I mean, some people are saying it's showing that, I think it's a Telegraph, or one of the papers said that he's by not saying what type of cancer, he's throwing his arms around
The whole of the cancer regime, but not telling us more.
Exactly. So
I think that's a little. But so what could it be? I mean, that's what we've got to ask ourselves.
But if you think about it, I mean, we're not going to bang on about this all show, obviously, but I remember in the 70s, I mean, if you had cancer, that was kind of it, wasn't it? It was was a taboo subject. And yet here we are now. I mean, we talk very openly, especially about men's cancer, about prostate all the time. Which has come out and everybody's getting us to get themselves checked and whatever. And we're all living longer.
I have 2 checks a year.
I think you're living
checks
proof that, yes.
I've also donated
I do too, but I'm moving to direct debits at some point.
But after my original little cancer scare, I was asked whether I'd join a research program, which was called Impact, run by the Royal Marsden Hospital. And so I donated my body to science, Giles. I want you to know that. And so I belonged to this program for more than 12 years. And I have an in-depth PSA. Conducted by the Marsden's team, and each 1,750 gentlemen each have a different genetic makeup, which is what they're studying. And so I feel that I've put something back in, and I feel secure because I had a higher reading in the middle of last year, wasn't happy, went straight to the Marsden. They took the reading, they said it's a false reading from another laboratory.
Right,
thank God. Anyway. So that's what it's about. And basically, I think that, and I hope sincerely, obviously, as everybody has said already, and I shall reinforce that we wish the King well as soon as possible. However, I think they've sort of thrown us a tidbit, and I think we should be given the main course as to what is actually going on, hopefully within the next day or so.
But again, as with anything, this is an entirely private matter, isn't it? If you have any sort of illness, you don't have to. I know that he is the king, and I know that obviously his nation is looking to him for leadership and guidance. But if you have something like this, whether you decide to let people know what it is, how far it is, whatever treatment is entirely a personal decision, isn't it? I mean, there's no protocol to say you must tell everybody the ins and outs. It's not a social media thing. Eleanor, you're itching. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say I kind of agree with you, Giles. Except, of course, he is the king, and therefore I think that there is a feeling that the people should know more about what is happening with him. But obviously, so they've given the paper, the press, the people something, which is this generic, he has cancer, and only the family know exactly what it is. But I suspect that perhaps it is rather more worse than perhaps has been made out, with, as Rex says, Harry flying over quickly, which is quite a big step.
And isn't that,
considering everything?
The family relationship.
Well, we like a good backstory, and obviously certain sections of the media are getting themselves in a real froth about this because he's coming over and talking about reconciliation. There's that whole royal soap opera going on, and as well as that, there's the fact that this is a little ironic that Charles has been waiting to be monarch for a very, very long period of time, and now he has to step back from his royal duties.
It's incredible. It's such bad luck. But you mentioned something about, and you were right, just on reflection, that years ago there was always a secrecy about being ill and he's got cancer, you can't, all of that. And I think it's much better and healthier for society that we do, obviously, open it all up, discuss it. A problem shared is a problem halved. And when you've got the misfortune of anything, if you share it with friends and family, of course, it's going to make it easier, a lot easier. However, what about dear Kate? What is wrong with dear Kate?
Well, now, if you have been following your Spanish media with Simon Hunter, who obviously was our man in Madrid for a very long time, and I would go to him every Wednesday because he was on El País, there have been some quite extraordinary claims in the Spanish media by a Spanish sort of celebrity journalist that the Princess of Wales was put in an induced coma and they were fearing for her life. And this was huge on Telecinco. And Simon Hunter has been going on about this because Simon Hunter now writes for The Times. He's The Times' man in Spain. And he said he phoned up Kensington Palace, because they would rather than Buckingham Palace, Kensington Palace, and said, is there any truth in this? And they were using words you wouldn't expect from a courtier, apparently, said Simon the other day. They said, there's absolutely no truth to this about her being in an induced coma. She's had a procedure, an abdominal procedure, and the alleged journalist hadn't even bothered to contact Kensington House. She just got it from a source. Now, if you are familiar with the ways of the media, and I have been in several newsrooms where you have an unnamed source. An unnamed source can be anybody from somebody who's actually in the palace to somebody who's just walked out of the tea room, and that's still a source. They've got nothing to do with the palace, but they're still a source. Or a friend close. That's the other one. It's sort of shorthand for we can't actually say who it is, and we're making it up as we go along. So that's the thing with Kate. I think she's had quite a serious procedure. But all this total of induced comas and fighting for life, I think you'll see some more sensationalist aspects of the Spanish press are a bunch of fried fish. I think we would say there.
Yes.
I didn't realise that story was going on.
No, I've never heard of that story.
It was all above the BBC and whatever.
I mean, I think probably we were discussing before we came on air, probably might have been a hysterectomy.
Well, yes. I mean,
I think that seems to be the obvious choice.
Yes.
And then, of course, we've got Fergie. Yeah. Now, Fergie's having a little bout at the moment, isn't she, of misfortune?
Skin cancer, isn't it? She's got, so it's...
Skin or breast?
Skin.
Yeah.
So, again, it is the luck of the draw. But, of course, she is probably prone to that, being Celt in origin. She's obviously, because I knew her in the past before she married Andrew, and of course she's a lovely redhead young lady, and of course people of that Celtic background have to be careful in the sunshine.
You used to see her in Soto Grande quite a bit on the polo.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
yes,
there you go. Right then, I think we've covered that one, and as I said before, Ray said, I hope you're not going to spend the entire time talking about Charles. So we're going to move on after this break.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Joined in the studio by Alan McKenzie and Rex Leyland. If you want to get involved with today's show, then these are the numbers to call in on.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And this is from Julie. Charles has early stage cancer. They caught it early, have the best treatment available. The hysteria is unbelievable. 952 78 4000, the phone number. studio@tre.radio is the email. The Facebook page is Talk Radio Official. You can WhatsApp me on +34 645 99 67 95. We're moving on from the king being diagnosed with cancer. Let's get on to some other news as well, because last week, last week, Sinn Féin leader Mary Ellen MacDonald declared that Irish unification is within touching distance as Northern Ireland's first ever nationalist First Minister was sworn in. Michelle O'Neill, MacDonald's vice president within the party, took office as head of the Northern Ireland Assembly on Saturday, and that's ignited speculation that a vote on uniting North and South could happen within a decade. Restoring the power-sharing assembly with what feels like a workable settlement is a stunning achievement for the UK government. But immediate talk of a border poll within a decade shows it won't all be smooth sailing. Right then. So, I mean, good news that the Stormont is up and operational again. Let's have you're rubbing your hands. Are you rubbing your hands? You're rubbing your hands there.
Absolutely. Above all and beyond all the arguments, the most important thing is that the Assembly is back up and running, and I watched it happen on BBC Northern Ireland on Saturday afternoon, and it was quite something. Emotional for some, of course. It is a huge moment for Michelle O'Neill to take the First Minister's role, as she was rightly entitled to and has had to wait 2 long years to actually take the role she is entitled to. So it is a wonderful thing for the people of Northern Ireland who have such a deficit in the health service, in all their public services, because of the boycott that's lasted for 2 years. The waiting lists in Northern Ireland are eye-wateringly bad. So the new health minister, Robin Swan, has not just a mountain to climb, he has a Mount Everest to climb in order to kind of try to put things right. There's an awful lot of work to be done. Please let all the arguing over the silly little points be over.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, the silly little points seem to be the thing in which the certain sectors of the political scene over there like to make their stand, don't they?
Yes, unfortunately, this is always the case, and we've had 2 years of. Well, if you had been on Twitter for the last 2 years, on what we call Irish Twitter, the slanging matches are, well, it was a soap opera of grand proportions. In many cases,
did this have a knock-on effect on the region itself? Because I mean,
absolutely.
It's been one of the Llanside and Belfast have been just a success story since the Good Friday Agreement. I mean, the way that that whole area has reinvented, rebooted, and revitalised itself is a one to behold.
There's lots of opportunities for Northern Ireland with access to the EU market. They have dual access. And so the opportunities for inward investment are great. But only if there is an assembly, if there's government happening there. And the great fear, of course, was would there be, if the DUP didn't go back in, would there be direct rule from Westminster, unacceptable to nationalist elements? And probably to many centrists as well. And then there was talk of joint authority in which Dublin and Westminster would have some kind of equal say. Well, that isn't acceptable to the hardline unionists. And so in the end, Westminster managed to come up with something, a modesty screen to spare the blushes.
A modesty screen to spare
the blushes yes. of the DUP and help them to get back in. Because it was clear that they had come to the end of the road with their boycott. There was nowhere left for them to go. And it was just frustrating the people. And the week before this deal was suddenly agreed, I mean, there had been a massive, almost general strike in Northern Ireland to complain about the fact that public pay had not increased in line with the rest of the UK and for some time. So I think they felt that they really had to do something. And the new command paper safeguarding the union helped Sir Geoffrey Donaldson take it over the line.
952 78 4000. What about this thing though? Because this is
the border poll chat.
The border poll chat, yeah.
Well, that is always going to, that is something that is probably discussed nearly every day. Somebody will yell on Twitter, border poll now. It's not quite time for it yet. There's an awful lot of work that needs to be done, discussions that need to be held around Ireland about what the future of a united Ireland would look like. And so if that can be done within 10 years, well...
Isn't that going to send the DUP though? Isn't that going to be like the red?
Oh, it's the red rag to the bull. Yes, of course.
They will entrench. They will start waving their union flags around again. And
well, they never stop, Giles. They never stop waving their union jacks. Let's be clear about that. Any excuse to hang up some bunting. But it is something that is that the nationalist community, it's a discussion that they want to have, and considering that they are the majority parties in many ways now, with both SDLP and Sinn Féin representing the nationalist community, They are entitled to have that conversation, just as the DUP are entitled to have the conversation about staying part of the union. It's just, it's a bit of a trying to square a circle, and on it goes.
Rex, and I know you as an Irishman yourself, Rex.
I am a new Irishman.
Yes.
And of course, my late mama was born in Belfast, and I spent a lot of my childhood in Belfast, and have been influenced immensely by all things Irish, whether it be north or south. What I think is refreshing about all of this is the example of how true democracy works. And even though a lot of people in Northern Ireland, and I'm not singling out amounts or quantity, but who would have thought years ago that this situation has now occurred? I mean, it is highly refreshing if you do believe in democracy and the free vote.
Absolutely right.
And we are Democrats, I think is the right word. We all believe in this, I think, sitting around this table, that we believe in total democracy. And you may not agree with the result, but it is a fine example of good democracy. I think that the DUP had to move. They had to give, because the province is on the verge of collapse.
Yes.
I mean, there's no question about it. And the stubbornness and of the DUP causing such unpleasantness for the majority of the population had to cease.
I mean, and we got a call on the line, 952 78 4000. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Yeah, hi, it's John in Mears.
Morning, John.
Just a question there for Rex. Did Rex, did you say your mother was born in Ireland?
Rex, the question was, did you say that your mother was born in Ireland?
My mother was born in Belfast, on the island of
Okay,
Ireland.
well, then I can't understand. You said you're a new Irishman. You're not. You were Irish from birth.
I know. I think, John, we've had this conversation on a previous show. It was you that educated me, as always, that if you're born on the island of Ireland, you are considered Irish by the Irish. Correct?
Yeah, if your parent was born on the island of Ireland,
yes.
you're considered Irish
Correct.
by the Irish.
You did.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks very much for that.
Okay. Thanks again.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
You say it's good to see the democracy. Also, it's the way that perhaps Sinn Féin has reimagined itself, because 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, of course, Sinn Féin was you couldn't hear Gerry Adams on the BBC, as the voice wasn't allowed to be broadcast. And perhaps the DUP, which is still perhaps in the shadow of the Reverend Ian Paisley, it now needs to look seriously. Does it reflect the values of their community in Northern Ireland? It's going to be an interesting one, isn't it?
I think that's a very good point, Giles, about the DUP having another look at themselves. Sinn Féin has played a strategy extremely well. In fact, I noticed that a quote in the paper yesterday from Gerry Adams, accompanied by a photo of him in the gallery at Stormont watching proceedings on Saturday, and he said, "It's great to see a plan work out."
Yeah,
Indeed.
But correct me if I'm wrong. Should we say? I don't want to be disrespectful, but perhaps the birth rate of the community has gone up on the Sinn Féin side, and therefore allowing them that majority. Is that?
Well, yes, I think certainly the demographics show that basically it's, sort of what we call the nationalist community has grown at a faster rate than the other one.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
So looking at looking at where we are then with the situation in Northern Ireland, one of the things that strikes me is, again, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we're of that generation, being in London in the 80s. We remember Hyde Park, and we remember the Kensington, and we remember the barracks, of course. And, you know,
I had a bomb shutter in the front of my restaurant.
Exactly.
We had a bomb in the same road as my restaurant
Right,
in
yes.
the 70s.
Yeah. Exactly.
It was frightening. It was frightening. And then another restaurant, in my other restaurant in Royal Hospital Road in Chelsea, they put a bomb in the letterbox about 20 yards from the entrance of my restaurant and outside the Royal Hospital.
And it just goes to show, though, that that people who are considered enemies of the state can be not rehabilitated, but the policies can become recognised, and they become part of the democratic process. And it's something that Spain is currently going through. And at this point, I'm going to bring on Claudio Del Torre, because he's joined us. Morning to you, Claudio.
Good morning, Giles. Good to see you again after a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, Claudio. Just, I mean, the situation which we had on mainland UK during the 70s and the 80s, and you could say that there are some parallels between that and what's happening at the moment in Spain with Bildu and that situation. That's why I brought you on.
There are quite a few parallelisms because, let's say, Sinn Féin and Bildu are allies, we could say. They have the same ideology of left-wing republicanism, and they want independence of their territories. So Gerry Adams and the leader of Bildu, Arnaldo Otegi, have been allies, or were allies for a long period of time. And of course, after the troubles in Northern Ireland and when the peace talks, etc., came, well, Sinn Féin started a long rehabilitation process to become we could say, a mainstream party because of all the, let's say, negative connotations they were for a lot of people. So that's what's happening with Bildu now. Bildu, let's say, the leader of Bildu is a convicted terrorist of the ETA organization. They stopped killing, fortunately, around 12 years ago approximately, so there's been 12 years of peace, which is still a lot more fresh than it is in Northern Ireland, because if I'm not wrong, the last time ETA killed in Spain was in 2010, if I'm not wrong, so it's a bit more recent. So yes, Bildu at the moment are supporting the current Spanish socialist government, and of course there's huge controversies because the Conservatives say that they still haven't repaired the victims, and that they still refuse to acknowledge the harm that they caused over the years. So of course, in the Spanish case, it's very interesting because the current socialist president, Pedro Sánchez, he needs both the Catalan and Basque votes to be in power. Like, without those votes, he wouldn't be in power. For the past 5 years, they've been supporting him. So, of course, he's changed radically. Of course, in his election campaign, he said, I would never campaign with Bildu. They have blood on their hands. They need to repair their victims. He insisted that for a long time. And, of course, then when he needed his votes, their votes, Bildu, the Basque nationalists, to remain in power, well, of course, he's made all types of concessions. So in Spain, it's a different debate than it is in the UK. There's some comparisons.
Theresa May gave the DUP, what was it? It was £1 million for each DUP member to get the Brexit vote through. So therefore.
Yes, she did. I've forgotten exactly what the total amount was, but it was quite a lot.
11 million, wasn't it? I think there were 11 DUP members, but yeah, it's an interesting one how politicians can be reformed, and because, as I said before, Gerry Adams in the 80s was the Prince of Darkness, basically, wasn't he? If you were believing some of the British press, so therefore.
Yes, and yet he can quite happily appear on. He's mainstream now.
That's perhaps that's perhaps the sign of a modern democracy, though, that you can. And we're not saying that you should go off and become a terrorist, stroke freedom fighter, stroke whatever for the armed struggle, but that they are, as long as you're not lunatic fringe, and you can join in the political process.
Yes, I think that's a really good point, Giles.
But the thing is, as Claudia was saying, I mean, do politicians sell their soul to retain, regain, or grab power?
You only have to look at the debate, but that goes at any level of politics.
That's what I mean.
From mayors upwards, particularly in certain regions.
What scruples do they have?
I think they have to look. Well, probably in the dictionary they look at that's about the scruples. Are looking at under S.
Is power addictive?
And I'm expecting a phone call from
you ask Mr. Putin about that.
I'm thinking Mr. Brewer's about to phone in any second now. Meanwhile, let's have a look at the WhatsApps. If you want to get involved, +34 645 99 67 95. This in an opinion poll is only indicative, and in recent years, many, if not most, have been widely wrong. But although they say Northern Ireland may be moving towards joining the Republic, the population of the Republic does not want them.
Well, that's another issue as well. And of course, polls, as the person on WhatsApp has pointed out, are notoriously wrong, and things change and move along over time. But yes, I think that it's seriously has to be asked, does Ireland want to have the North?
I mean, on a different scale. I mean, if you remember when Germany reunited, and people say, "Oh, this is going to be wonderful, Germany reunited," and then a lot of the West Germans didn't really want people from East Germany coming in with their stonewashed jeans and bad haircuts.
But I think there could be a point in what you say, whether they actually really want Northern Ireland. If you think of what's happened to in the Republic of Ireland, should we just say the last 12 to 15 years, how their fortunes have changed. Mm-hmm. They now have a sovereign fund. They are rich. The EU came to their rescue at the right time. They haven't squandered their money or their chances. And I think we are talking approximately 12 years ago. So it's been quite a miracle what's happened in the Republic of Ireland. And maybe there is a point there. Maybe Northern Ireland would be a thorn in their side, financially and politically.
I think, Rex, there's the first one, the economic situation, the cost of having the North.
You know, it may not be, and being obviously prudent, the Irish may turn around and say, well, maybe we don't want to spend that sort of money.
And it's to the lines we go, 952 78 4000. Good morning, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Good morning, Giles. You enticed me.
I just, when we talked about, politics and hanging on to power, I mean, you just popped up in my memory bank.
It's the way everybody talks about it. And no, they don't sell their souls. Politics is about politics. Politics, as I've always said, politics is about the art of the possible. And after you've achieved what you think is what you need as the possible, then you have to have the power to enact it. So people will do lots of things in order to either get power or retain power. And what you're seeing, and I did say, I object strongly to what Plasoe did recently in doing all their dirty deals in order to stay in power, because I think it's just dirty and unclean. But it doesn't, the mentality of these people isn't about, we're going to sell ourselves. They're not selling themselves. What they think is that they'll be able to get in, negotiate with people, and not do it. And you only have to look at the one absolutely gleaming best example of how that works is when the SDP joined with the Tories to form their government, and almost immediately the SDP gave up on their major claim of no student charges. And that was because the SDP could see the writing on the wall. All of the time, the Tories, when there was a consortium of power, I would love somebody to tell me what one thing the SDP achieved by being in power with the Tories, because they were never really in power with the Tories. The Tories were in power, but they needed the SDP on side for bums on seats to put their hands up in the right place. So it was the Tories that were holding on and clinging on to power and manipulating power and doing all the rest of it. So it's not about selling their souls. It's about, what do I want to achieve in my political life? How do I need to get there? And just to Claudia, the IRA bit was never the same, and is not the same as ETA and the Spanish stuff. It's not the same, because the IRA never claimed that they wanted independence for their own lands. The IRA's claim was they wanted a united Ireland. It's always been about a united Ireland. ETA aren't claiming that they want a united Spain, are they?
Well, it depends how you see it, of course.
ETA has never once said they want a united Spain. The last thing they want is to be united with the rest of Spain.
Well, IRA wanted an independent Ulster and independent from the UK, and ETA wanted an independent Basque country, independent from Spain. So, of course, it depends how you look at it.
From the UK, the IRA wanted one Ireland. That's always been the claim. That's why they separated it, Second World War stuff, and they separated it into Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland and give power to the Southern Irish that they couldn't give to the Northern Irish, because the Northern Irish were mainly Unionists, United Kingdom people, ex-British.
Protestants, Alf. Protestants.
Well, ex-British, let's put it that way. You can argue about the religious bit, which is part of it, but it was the landowners.
Alf, the main part was religion.
No, the main part was landowners, Rex. The landowners created the religion, the landowners prompted the religion, the landowners propped up the religion, but the owners of the land were the ones who were saying, we are not leaving the rest of Britain. It was the landowners. Never get down to the basics. The people, all this nonsense about real genuine democracy and all that. There was no democracy when they created Northern and Southern Ireland. It was imposed on one half and it was given to another half.
Just got a few bits and pieces coming in here. This one in saying no, that's all right. But I just want to say because you like this one. Do politicians sell their soul? Spits out coffee. Splutter on the day Liz Truss launches the Popular Conservative Front of Judea, and well, she's got this pro-conservative thing going, and Kwasi Kwarteng announces he's standing down in the next general election.
Well, he's got no political future anyway, has he? So, he sold his boat. He got on the boat with Liz Truss, and they burnt the boat, and Liz Truss jumped off, and he stayed on. So he's got no political future. What he has got is a business future. So going to be like they all do. Cameron thought he could leave power and go into big business, and he found that big business didn't really want him, and he was missing the politics. So I want to come back. Make me a lord. I'll be the foreign secretary. I'll be the best foreign secretary Britain's ever had. All that nonsense.
Can you correct your caller? It was not the SDP. It was Lib Dems and Clegg.
Lib Dems. Sorry, Lib Dems. I get them all mixed up because they change their name so often. It didn't matter.
Alf, as always, thank you for the call in. Good to have you with.
And Rex, nice to hear you in Spain. Nice to hear you, Eleanor and Claudia.
That's very lovely. Thank you, Alf.
Thanks, Alf.
Take care. There's Alf, of course. If you want to get involved with today's show, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And another WhatsApp coming in here. St. Patrick was from Wales, and he went to Ireland to drive out the snakes, i.e. the pagans, the Celts, and that was the beginning of the taking over of Ireland. So there you go. You're shaking your head at me, Eleanor.
Well, that's a stretch, but anyway.
We're a broad church here on Viewpoint.
Yes, well, sort of it's part of the story of Ireland.
I mean, the carving up of the empire as it was, say, after the First World War or before the First World War. Certainly, Ireland was.
There's a small matter of the uprising as well.
There's an uprising. There's a civil war.
Exactly.
We had a terrible civil war, just as Spain had.
And then one forgets the horrendous famine in Ireland. The potato famine, when people didn't have food to feed themselves.
That's the one the President wanted to bring back, wasn't it?
They all went all over the world.
Yes.
To find food and work and jobs.
Well, I think work rather than I mean, that's hunter-gathering taken to its extreme, Rex.
Paying attention, guys.
So there's a first time for everything. 952 78 4000 is the phone number. I'm looking at my charts here, and I managed to lose the thing I was about to. Here we go. Yes, indeed. This is we're going back to that whole thing about the New York Times quoted that the growth of nationalist political representation is unsurprising because of demographics. They're shifting significantly in Northern Ireland over the decades, driven by a higher birth rate amongst the Catholics, who in 2022 outnumbered Protestants north of the border for the first time. So that's a change in demographic.
Yes, and I'm sure that change will continue. And there's also, let's not forget, which it's rarely spoken about in the press, a great growth in the centre ground people who might have been unionists, centre unionists, who now go to the Alliance, vote for the Alliance Party, which is neutral on the border poll. They neither are against it or for it. So there's quite a shift towards that, and it's going to be interesting to see how young people who are coming up to voting age will be voting in future. And there's a suspicion that there will be more movement towards the centre ground from young people.
Well, because again, we're of a certain age, and for us, what happened in the 70s and the 80s is very much front and centre. But of course, for this new generation coming up, it's like when you talk to Spanish about Juan Carlos, and you say, and a lot of young Spanish don't understand how important Juan Carlos is, and they just see him as this 80-year-old serial philanderer who likes to shoot elephants. But rather than
same, like with the Gen Z, you talk to them about ETA, and for them it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
For us, it has still a meaning, and we understand but for them, it's just something like historic. It's something of recent history that's gone past. They haven't lived it, so they don't see it as emotionally as, let's say, the older generation.
Absolutely, Claudia. That's
surely
the thing.
That's the story of life, isn't it? It's progress, and things move on, and people die, and the next generation comes in, and they change it around and move things on. And in this particular instance, it certainly looks as if what's happened in Northern Ireland has been a gigantic or seismic step moving politically forward and trying to amalgamate the people of Northern Ireland.
Yes, especially since the state was set up, if you want to call it the province, was set up specifically for Protestants, and to always have, the idea was always to have Protestant rule. And on Saturday, that was turned on its head.
952.
So that is seismic.
952 78 4000. This coming in again. It's not a stretch about St. Patrick's. The beginning of the replacing of culture and beliefs with a foreign culture. That's how empires begin. Which is fair enough. 952 78 4000 is the phone number if you want to get your viewpoint across.
The power is in my perspective over the events that are happening to me, not the events themselves.
The Remix, a recap of the best interviews of the week.
And I was so struck by this idea that there could be, moments in history where something so significant is happening that neutrality is just no longer an option.
Tune in Saturdays and Sundays from 2 p.m. on TRE.
I have had quite a lot of calls this week from, the LGBTQ community. And he said, well, yeah, that's because your number's been posted on Grindr. The friendly plumber.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
952 78 4000 is the phone number. Joined in the studio by Rex Leyland, Eleanor Mackenzie and Claudia De La Torre. Into the last 4 minutes of this morning's Viewpoint, of course, with you until midday. Just to let you know what's coming up today on TRE Talk Radio, your voice in Spain. Following me will be Stephen Ritson, as of course you'd expect, with Europe Today. Following him is Selena Mackenzie, and it being the first Tuesday of the month, means it's Animal Talk. So all things animals. So should we talk? First of all, she's talking to Ron McGill about the pride of a lion. Quasi the lion story is told by world-renowned wildlife photographer and Zoo Miami's Goodwill ambassador Ron McGill, who documented and photographed every stage of Quasi's remarkable rollercoaster life. No, not the former Chancellor who's retiring. This is a lion. And also Animal Talk with Mary Carmen is joining with Mary today. Mary's on the show today. Kay Millington from Rescue Paws Spain and AAA, and also Nasli Van Dekeboom from Pointer Clinic. So if you've got any questions for them on Animal Talk, Hannah will be joining us with TR in the afternoon. Charlotte Rodriguez, the lovely Charlotte from Wines for Fun and Cervinco International, talking about all things wine. And at the 10:05, she's chatting to the founder of the British Academy of Sound Therapy, Liz Cooper, about Autofocus, an album of music design specifically to help with focus, creativity and inspiration. And her third guest is Janine Marina Mendez Vieira. She is a human rights leader, and she'll be sharing empowering advice to help women move forward this year. Following that, we have Howard Brereton with Spain Today, bringing you news from around the country. And then there is the repeat of this show from 7 until 9. And then we get to the BBC World Service when Dave joins us at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning with Daybreak. That's your whole... How's that for a run-through, right?
I can't believe that you have the capacity and of just memorising all these wonderful things on TRE.
Yes, but I still have an L and an R on my driving gloves, just in case I don't want to ask silly questions in a moment of crisis, as I told my goddaughter yesterday. 952 78 4000 is the phone number. Right, in the second half, we'll be debating some other things that have been crossing the radar of the panel. We'll be looking at the latest news coming out of the UK. The news that Sunak is this is making. Is it smoke and mirrors? This Rishi Sunak bet about they're going to get the planes going. He's made a bet, etc. Blinken, the American Foreign Minister Blinken, is on a visit to the trouble-hit Middle East at the moment, and also a British-owned ship has been hit by a projectile that's coming through this morning. So we're looking at the fallout from that ongoing situation, plus anything else that wants to cross your radar. If you want to get involved in this show, then the numbers are as follows.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Right, coming up to the end of the first half of this morning's Viewpoint with me, Giles Brand, and my guests, Eleanor Mackenzie, Rex Leyland, and Claudia De La Torre. We're going next to the international news from London, and then the national news, of course, from our very own Bob on the Costa Blanca. But now we go live to the newsrooms of London, and then back for more Viewpoint after the news at the top of the hour.
Talk Radio Europe.
Your voice in Spain.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown. Live comment and discussion with studio guests.
Viewpoint.
And welcome back to the second half of Viewpoint with me, Giles Brown, joined in the studio by Anna Mackenzie, Rex Leyland and Claudia De La Torre. If you want to get involved with today's Viewpoint, then these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Yes, indeed. As promised, we're not going to go on about the King all day today. Let's have a look at, though, at some of the major stories that are making the front pages today. Obviously, the main story is going to be the King being diagnosed with cancer. Also, there is the Chile wildfire. Death toll has reached 120. Devastating fires tearing through swathes of Chile have killed more than 120 people, authorities said, as they warned that death toll would continue to rise. There are currently 161 active fires burning across the country, according to the Chilean National Disaster Prevention and Response Service. Hundreds of people are still missing, and some 14,000 homes have been damaged. Chile began an unofficial 2-day mourning period yesterday. Meanwhile, the new CERN project will unlock the secrets of the universe. Scientists in Switzerland are pressing ahead with a 20 billion euro expansion of the world's biggest particle accelerator to probe the universe's secrets even more deeply. This is in the FT. The Future Circular Collider will improve our understanding of fundamental laws of physics and nature. That's what Fabiola Gianotti, CERN's Director General, said. The FCC proposal has intensified the debate of whether large investments in big-ticket science are better than more targeted projects with obvious practical benefits. No final decisions have yet been made on whether to go ahead with the project. So that is, and also there is a corruption scandal rocking Japan's ruling party. Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has promised to address a financial scandal that rocks the nation's ruling party and is threatening to destroy his chances of a second term. Revelation about the Liberal Democratic Party have created the country's biggest financial scandal in decades, says The Economist. Kishida has apologized for the erosion of public confidence in his ruling party and vowed to act like a ball of fire to tackle those issues, and those are some of the stories breaking this morning on TRE Talk Radio, your voice in Spain.
Viewpoint with Giles Brown.
Always live, always live. If you should get involved with today's Viewpoint, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Quite a lot to talk about in the next. It's almost like one of those spin the wheel games where we could spin the wheel and see where it ends up. There's been so much going on recently. We have the situation, of course, in France with the farmers protesting as only the French can do. Rex is shaking his head on that.
Absolutely, I do love it. I read something. I think it was in the Mail on Sunday. Somebody wrote an article that this might be the start of the breakup of the EU, with the Germans going mad, the French are going mad, the Dutch are going mad, and it's being a Brexiteer, of course, is something that we could say, well, it's not that we didn't mention it before, but there is, I'm being obviously a bit facetious, but there is a lot of discontent in Europe at the moment for various reasons.
Well, just in this, I'll give you a quick heads up, because thousands of farmers in France took to the streets to protest a variety of alleged grievances against their industry, claiming the French government has hindered the progress of farming as a livelihood. Farmers near Paris saddled up on their tractors to barricade highways. They more effectively blocked the paths in and out of Paris with what the farmers called a siege of the French capital city. It's never been the same since Les Mis, has it, basically?
And I also read in the same article that the French farmers now admire Jeremy Clarkson. He's the new hero. Diddly squat farm. It's true. I mean, they love Jeremy Clarkson. I thought it was very funny.
Who had that on their bingo card? Meanwhile, while the process sort of died down a bit, what became, and here's your point, Rich, because what began on the streets of Paris has now spread across large swathes of northern Europe. Mooring protests from agricultural workers have been seen in Belgium, where a blockade brought the Belgian-Dutch border to a standstill. Farmers in Spain and Italy have also begun a series of tractor blockades, and additional demonstrations have been seen in Poland, Germany, Romania, Greece, Portugal, and more. There's a variety of issues plaguing farmers across the continent, including burgeoning bureaucracy, as well as wider issues including the increasing cost of farm diesel, late payment of EU subsidies, or competition from imports.
I think the Dutch actually were the first out. Because they were complaining strongly about the fact that the emissions from cows was causing a climatical problem.
And, the methane.
And suddenly this is going back, I think, was obviously last year, early last year, that hit the headlines, which I thought was quite amusing. But it seems that the farmers have become the victims of the EU. Could somebody elaborate? Tell me why the farmers are becoming victims of the EU? Because surely they're the backbone of the EU.
Well, it was the common agricultural policy that used to upset people on a regular basis, and the French farmers were always complaining about that. So perhaps that. I mean, I'm sure that Stephen Ritson will be able to set us right on this one as he will. But it's an interesting one with the farmers because they're complaining about red tape. I mean, there's a lot of red tape with people saying with imports to the UK because there's now going to have to be more.
They're importing everything. I mean, I always, when I shop and I'm buying produce, I always make a point of looking to where that produce came from.
Right.
And it's interesting that when you go to the supermarket in London, we're getting stuff from all over the world, which we never got before. It was all mainly from Europe. And but then you say, morally, is that right? Should I be buying a packet of physalis?
I'm sorry?
Physalis are the little Cape berries. You know,
we're looking
that come from Peru. Do you know what physalis are?
No.
I think I had a cream. I think I had a cream for it once.
Water, anybody?
Physalis.
Sorry? Cape berries. And the Peruvians eat them because they're the highest source of vitamin C. So when you're not well, eat a bag of physalis.
952 78 4000. Rex Leyland playing a blinder there with his knowledge of Peruvian berries.
Yes.
Who had that on their bingo cards?
So it's true.
Blimey, okay.
But we do get an awful lot of different fruits coming in from all over the world.
Apologies to anybody who's got a lisp trying to pronounce
physalis.
I have, yes.
Sounds like an awful disease.
Yes, thank you, Claudio.
It does, yes.
Claudio's been living on the Costa del Sol most of his life, so therefore he would know about such things.
To pronounce it correctly and not intimate anything else. But I think they're called Cape berries. They're orange and they're very sweet and got a slight tartiness to them. I think you can buy them in Spain.
I shall. Right, okay. If you know what physalis is, if you have a physalis, a bunch of physalis, or is a physalis sitting on your mantel shelf, please call in 952 4000. I would like somebody to know, to any Peruvian listeners,
yes,
who've got a good contact for Anyway,
well, and the cherries, of course, come from Chile. at the moment?
Well, not lots coming from Chile at the moment, apart from all the smoke, as I was saying before, because of the horrendous wildfires that have been going over there. 2 days of national mourning with the wildfires. 120 people killed thus far. Note to oneself, avoid discussion of Peruvian berries in public. Thank you very much for that one, listener. I'm just going to take a quick break whilst I get myself together, and I think we'll do one of these as I compose myself.
Join me, Giles Brown, on It's GB, Not GQ, to hear exclusive stories about your favourite bands.
I mean, even the Stones, for all their fame, never sold the quantities of records that the Eagles did.
Music, interesting guests, hilarious anecdotes, and more to start the weekend.
Ozzy by this time is wearing his wardrobe mistress's culottes, a big baggy t-shirt, a cowboy hat.
It's GB, Not GQ, Fridays from 4 p.m. here on TRE.
They were arrested, and I think they were still in custody over the weekend, so they didn't even appear at the festival.
Oh, genius.
Right then, and we're back in Live to the Lines we go. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Morning, Giles. It's Teresa.
Good morning, Teresa. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Just back from the grey UK, so really appreciating the sunshine this morning. You've probably seen those fruits. They're the kind of thing they put on the kind of posh cakes that you'd see around Marbella. They're like a little orange berry, and they usually have some little, look like dead leaves around them.
Ah, that's them, is it? What?
Yeah.
Orange berries with some little, look like dead things around them.
You have to peel it back, exactly.
You know exactly what I mean.
Now I know.
Yeah, you would have seen them.
Yes, I mean,
that's what they're called.
As a man who knows his expensive tarts of Marbella, I have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. So thank you for that.
Well, I thought you would.
What's the other name?
All right,
What's the other name? Is it Cape berries?
I had an idea they might have been called Chinese gooseberries, but I might be getting...
Oh, it's Chinese... I think... I always muddle up between Chinese gooseberries and kiwi fruit are known... They have another name as well.
Oh, maybe they
and I think
are.
they're Chinese gooseberries.
I know what they are. They're used a lot in catering for, like, posh... really ridiculously expensive price cakes.
Well, in Morrison's you can buy them two for £1. So I'd get over there and two for £1.
Exactly.
2 for £1, and they do you the world of good.
Right then. So there you go. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Teresa. Teresa, as always, good to have you with us. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. 952-78-4000. Breaking news: former Irish Prime Minister John Bruton, his death has been announced. It's being announced at the moment. You just let out a big sigh there.
Oh well, it's sad to see. Sad to hear of somebody's death.
Indeed. 952-78-4000. Now, where were we? That's all we were talking before we got sidetracked on Thistoleth and Chinese gooseberries. Because the point behind this was importation into the UK. There's been we're talking the Dutch and also the farmers, also the flower. We've got Valentine's Day coming up, Rex. It's the most wonderful time of the year for you. So therefore, a lot of people are saying to get flowers into the UK. A lot of florists in the UK are saying they won't be able to get flowers because of the red tape, etc.
Well, the Dutch, of course, were very clever after Brexit because they'd already set up their lines of supply and so on. And I think, obviously, a lot of flowers are still grown in the UK, but the Dutch, fill the gaps, florally, let's say. You see their lorries trundling along the motorways, laden with cultivated flowers. And, of course, tulips are all the rage. There was a time, of course, when tulips were a currency, weren't they?
Yes, indeed.
They were very valuable.
Yeah. Okay.
Like pineapples.
Indeed, and somebody's come up with kumquats, by the way.
No, not the same.
Not the same.
No.
I thought the kumquat was the thing on top of the posh cake, actually.
I love the way this show goes. Yeah. Because, you start off with... Anyway, let's it's just taking a very strange turn, today's viewpoint. Looking at... So that's the situation with... but it is interesting to see that the protests by the French by the farmers across Europe, and again... it's the revamp of the common agricultural policy which apparently is upsetting them, because the EU has described the initiative as a partnership between society and agriculture that ensures a stable supply of food, safeguards farmers' income, protects the environment, and keeps rural areas vibrant. Part of the revamp, which aims to make the policy more eco-friendly, includes a requirement that 4% of farmland remains unused to help offset lost crops following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But farmers have long argued these measures will make the European agricultural sector less competitive. Combined with still high inflation across Europe, farmers are having to do much more with less support. Luc Vernet of the think tank Farm Europe told the BBC they don't see how they can cope any longer. So,
why are the French wine producers throwing their wine away, Giles? Do you know about that?
I hadn't even seen that one. So.
Of course, the Australians are having to throw their wine away because since they fell out with the Chinese, of course, have banned all imports of Australian wine, which is something that is obviously upsetting. But no, I think that the whole, it's always, you're never going to satisfy all the people all of the time. But I think it's very tough on the farmers. And I think to have done what they did in the last week or so is demonstrating how angry they are. And I think probably the EU need to be more observant.
Indeed, and still we seem to hit a rare vein here because hi Giles and all. This is Jane in Mallorca. Jane is from Cape Town. Lucky Jane, and she said there. This is the Thistolith. Yes, there they are known as Cape gooseberries.
Oh, that's it. It is Cape gooseberry. That's it. Thank you. Thank you.
There we
gooseberry.
go. So,
didn't remember.
So next time you get something looking on top of your cake, Claudia, you'll be able to say, "Look, this is a Cape gooseberry." Cape gooseberry. 952-78-4000 is the phone number. Back after this.
Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe with
Giles Brown.
And we're back, and thank you for all the fruit and veg. The fruit and veg section of Viewpoint is a rich, untapped seam that I never thought.
Market's open.
The market's open. What have you done? You've unleashed it in a barrow, boy, Leyland.
Woke master.
Woke master.
Fruity woke master general.
Fruity woke finder general.
Woke finder. Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Indeed. Right then, let's take a deep breath because there's some more bits and pieces coming in. Thank you, Don, for sending me in the definition of Physalis. Thank you. Also, Stephen Richard's got involved. You see, you always know you're in trouble now. So this is sounding like Europe today with all the talk of food. If you're not, because we've had the Ritson diet recently. What he's had for dinner before. Anyway, let's move away from that. Let's because joking aside, it's been a pretty significant week as well, with the situation in the Middle East, with Tehran seeking to supplant the US and Saudi Arabia as a dominant power in the Middle East whilst forcing Israel to end the Gaza war. The attack on the US military base in Jordan threatened to ignite the tensions between the Middle East and provide direct confrontation between the US and Iran. Rishi Sunak has urged Iran to de-escalate after, of course, this missile attack on the Tower 22 outpost killed 3 US troops and injured 24 others. President Joe Biden blamed radical Iran-backed militant groups operating in Syria and Iraq for the despicable attack and promised to retaliate, which obviously he did. Iran's foreign ministry has denied any involvement, calling such accusations baseless and a conspiracy by those interested in dragging the US into a new conflict in the region to intensify the crisis. But the strikes have sparked calls for a firm response as Iranian-backed militant groups and proxies across the Middle East, known as the Axis of Resistance, have targeted Americans. It is a dangerous time. We'll go from the right this time. Eleni, your thoughts on what we've been seeing? Because Blinken, of course, is in Anthony Blinken is in that region at the moment, trying to push for a hostage deal, trying to de-escalate the crisis.
Yes, there's a lot of sparks happening that are, threaten to cause fires happening elsewhere. So I think it's deeply worrying that we're seeing little outbreaks. It's like these little outbreaks of fighting between the US, the UK. You've got Jordan, various things. You've got Yemen. You've got Iran. And it all kind of feels as though it's on a knife edge, and it's being contained at the moment, but it's a fragile containment. It can always go either way.
And it's particularly tender. But Claudia, your thoughts on where we are with this?
Well, to be honest, I don't really have an opinion on the subject.
Okay. Right, okay.
Frank,
you don't feel...
You don't...
I mean, but I think as far as there are sort of really... what's the word? Provoking points. Iran. One has to look at Iran and its history. And the Iranians being led by religious people. And I find it very difficult to understand what sort of religion they're preaching or following when it comes to politics. But of course, we always know you should never mix religion and politics. But of course, they do in Iran, and you get this hodgepodge of I think, total irreverence to especially to their own people. I saw that awful documentary about the rebellions recently in Iran and how they were killing people in the street, and there was no mercy shown to anybody or anything, all in the name of Allah, I suppose, or God. I think the Americans and the British and the rest of the Allies have every right to defend international shipping lanes. I think is an absolute affront that that ships are being attacked. That's cargo ships, whatever. The knock-on effect is going to be horrendous for all of us because it's going to put up the prices. The Chinese, it's funny because it puts the Chinese in a bad position because they're exporting to all of us and they can't get their goods through. And they also perhaps have to take the long way around and pay the extra fuel and pay the extra insurance. So I think this year we're going to see huge price rises, not that we've had enough already. And then we have the risk of a wider conflict, which sadly is quite strong. Now, would a good old-fashioned war in Yemen, it would start there. Is that the right way forward? And Biden is very careful. I'm saying it because I'm going to lead on to the next point, which is he probably doesn't want to really start this. He's actually being terribly cautious that he doesn't want to provoke things that will lead to a war. But I think in the short term, I think we do need to be very tough with the shipping lanes. They are international. Everybody has a right to sail their vessels up and down, and why should the Houthis use Gaza as an excuse to attack innocent shipping?
Well, it's because this is isn't it? This is access of resistance, and so they're going to use anything that is anything they can hang their hat on.
Yeah. And are the Houthi the happiest nation in the world? If they are a nation, well, they're not a nation, they're a people. They're a group of people. And what are they fighting for? And can they afford it?
Well, they can, because they've obviously been backed by the Iranian.
Exactly, and then that's the wider picture. Yeah. Exactly.
Indeed. And the thing is, though, you say, can they get involved? If there's anything to do with the US and on the ground in that region has thus far proved pretty catastrophic. You only have to look at the situations that we've had, for example, when they were in Lebanon. This is going back to 1982, and the bombing of the US Marine base, the suicide bombing there. So I don't think they can have a campaign per se, because if you put American boots on the ground there, that will just inflame all the tensions, because America would immediately be seen as as the grand Satan, quote unquote, as Khomeini used to call them all the time. So it's very tricky. I think you've got limited. I think what they can only do what they've done thus far, which is targeted strikes from, and I use that in parentheses, targeted strikes from the sea and from the air.
Yes, that's correct, and that's, I think, it is legitimate, which is, and that's how they need to handle it at the moment.
And of course, there's one person rubbing their hands with glee, and that's Mr. Putin, because of course it's taken the world's eye off Ukraine, and I feel so sorry for the Ukrainians because if we're going to get involved with another conflict, they're already saying the UK supplies, ammunition supplies, are rock bottom. The hardware is at rock bottom, and the last thing we need is a conflict, because we just don't have the manpower or the equipment to exceed. I just feel that probably if it can be contained just to the shipping issue, then we might avoid a major conflict.
952-78-4000 is the phone number. Studio at TRE.radio. Page is Talk Radio Europe official. Let's move away from that particular region. Should we go across the States and the latest with the US presidential race? Trump seemingly going ahead, forming ahead. US Supreme Court will hear arguments this Thursday stemming from Colorado's landmark ruling in December that former President Donald Trump should be barred from the Republican ballot over his alleged role in the Capitol attacks of January 2021, the first time the so-called insurrection clause has been used to disqualify a presidential candidate. Although the ruling won't be announced, court watchers can often get a sense of which way key justices are leaning. So what do we think about that one, panel, and where we stand, Claudio?
Well, in my opinion, it's going to be an extremely interesting run-up to the next presidential election with all these court cases going on. And, of course, I think it's very exciting because it's not going to be a conventional election by any means. And there's going to be lots of drama and lots of colourful events, and we're going to hear a lot of Trump's speeches. And for me, the biggest question for me is why on earth are the Democrats, why have they chosen to put Biden? I have the impression that they kind of want Trump to win by choosing Biden because they have so many other candidates. But of course you think they'd say, okay, Biden, he's had his 4 years, he is at an advanced stage, let's say he isn't the most quick and mentally sharp person there is. So I just don't understand why the Democrats would choose to push him into another election. That's just my opinion. And respecting Trump, well, he's Trump. What more is there to say? Everyone knows what his intentions are and how he is, and I don't think the US courts are going to block him from going to the elections in November. And even if he has all these indictments and cases, it's going to be delayed, and it will be delayed because there's just so many cases. So it doesn't really give it any time from here to November. And even the Constitution, even if he was a convicted felon, that doesn't stop him from being able to be a president. It doesn't stop him from either being able to run for office or to actually
perform his duties.
Exactly, perform his duties. It's not like in other countries, like for example in Spain or other European countries, if you're convicted of a crime, you're barred from performing any public duty. That's not the case constitutionally in the US, and Trump is leading the polls. He has hit no rivals in the Republican Party that can beat him. So the prospects of a Trump presidency are every time more possible.
And I mean, it's going to be interesting to see who he chooses as his running mate as well. He's got to pick a vice president. And do we think that, could it be DeSantis rather than Haley? Because Haley's going to she's only the current.
Interesting to see. It could be DeSantis, but then again, as they've had several arguments over the years, it's possible that he won't, or he'll just pick some random person that isn't notorious who he can just kind of manipulate to his own way. Because, of course, I don't think DeSantis would want to be he's quite happy being the governor of Florida and going to Washington and being under Trump's wing. I don't think he'd probably want that. I think he'd rather have be the governor of Florida and have full power, because being a vice president, we've seen it with Kamala Harris, for example, it's not a great role. It's not the most interesting role or prestigious role. You're just kind of like the sidekick in a way.
Well, in Trump's case, it would very much be the sidekick. It would be the Abbott Costello or whatever, you know.
They thought that Kamala Harris would be much stronger, would be far more influential. But it seems that she's been diluted.
I mean, you think about other vice presidents, like Dan Quayle, for example. I mean, it's not the role. Anyway, we go live to the lines. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Morning, everybody. Sharon, Alicante. I don't understand why the American people are putting Trump ahead in the polls, because the American economy is doing pretty well. From what I listen to, quite a few business discussions and things. There's one on the World Service every night now, and with the American economy doing so well, there must be some kind of Biden factor for them to be going for Trump in droves. I really don't get it. It's just strange, isn't it? What do people think about that?
That's a good point, Sharon. Hello, and nice to hear your voice again.
Thank you.
But no, you made a good point, because the economy at the moment in America is doing extremely well. And if it ain't broke, why fix it? So
exactly. I think it would be magnanimous of Biden to step down and let somebody else. But I don't. Does anybody know anything about any other Democratic candidates that would do? Because there doesn't seem to be much in the foreground of who else is available to run for president. It's probably a bit late now, but it's just worrying he's all they can come up with. Although obviously he's not doing a bad job, because the economy is okay. The other thing that worries me in America, particularly in America, is these AI. They've already had some fraudulent videos of Biden apparently touching his granddaughter inappropriately, and I just worry because America could be eroding democracy unwittingly, really. That's my point. I'll leave that with you.
Thank you very much for that one, Sharon. Indeed, yeah. In the week that deep fake images of Taylor Swift was taken on the internet, there people are having a lot of worries about fake videos coming out that seem to be.
How are we going to? We discussed this before earlier, but how are we going to? How are we, the public, going to know what's real and what's not real? I mean,
it's a big question, isn't it?
You know, if you read the paper 5 years ago or more, you knew what you were reading was actually written by the person who said he wrote it. But now we don't know anything. Yeah. And we see a picture and we don't know if it's doctored or not. So
just quickly, if you're trying to call in, we can't take calls in on the WhatsApp. So if you wish to call, 952 78 4000 is the phone number. Sorry.
So, you know, I mean, it's. I think it's very worrying. I really do. But Claudia, you're the youngest here. How do you feel about? Do you feel that you might be cheated later in life by false?
Absolutely. Not later in life, right now.
Okay. Well, in your line of business as well, it's actually quite a.
It's happening everywhere, and many financial sectors are going to be hugely. We can say some are going to take advantage, but it's going to cause a revolution. So it's already being regulated. the EU, China, the US, they've already had talks on regulating artificial intelligence because it's such a huge threat to the economy, to national security, to many aspects of society. So unless it's regulated, it could potentially cause huge harm. So if it's not strongly regulated, many people will end up unemployed. There'll be machines replacing people, even lawyers, journalists, architects. The most skilled workers are going to be affected by it. So definitely it is worrying.
And it's to the lines we go. Morning, Call. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Hi, Paul from Mayhem.
Morning, Paul.
Morning. I just listening to you talking about Donald Trump, and if you look back to why at one point he was like he was the golden boy of, up to a point of America. He had everybody wanted to know him. But what happened was, when he was at that dinner, he said to Hillary Clinton, "You should be in prison," and all this sort of stuff. He upset the apple cart of American politics because they're so corrupt. I mean, look at American politicians, so terribly corrupt. And he's upset the apple cart, and they're kind of going, no, you can't do that. We're all lining our pockets. And that's why he's hated. I mean, they've thrown umpteen court cases at him. He's raped all these women. He's done all this, that, and the other. None of them have been proven, and so I hope he wins the next election because it'd just be so funny to see the Liberals just implode,
Did you catch the speech he made last week?
No.
Okay, because he said that if he gets back in power, he's going to... A couple of things he's going to reenact. One is he's going to go after the FBI and the CIA and clear them out. He's going to go after the judicial process and clear that out as well. And they said he would be swift and decisive.
Yeah, but you see, Giles, the thing is they are terribly corrupt. Look at the FBI, so terribly corrupt. I have friends that live in America, and your last caller, Sharon, was saying, the economy's doing well. The economy is on its knees. You go to New York. I used to live in New York. You wouldn't go there now. I've got friends who say to me, I would never go back to America. California, a good friend of mine lives in Brooklyn and has a big business there. He says the place is just ruined. So, for people to say, Biden's done good for the economy, he hasn't. They've plundered it. He and his party. Look at Nancy Pelosi. How it comes she's so incredibly rich? How come Biden is so rich? It's because they're getting kickbacks from everybody. I mean, and if you look at American politics, which we all did, I mean, I'm sure we've all gone, America, the land of the free, this great country. Well, look what they did to Kennedy. They assassinated Kennedy. That was the CIA did that. They tried to kill, as you'll remember, they tried to kill Ronnie Reagan. That was because of the Iran-Contra, and he got fed up with it. Because it started making him look bad. And so he obviously went against them. And then they go, well, let's just get rid of him. I mean,
Thank you for your call in there, Paul. Good to have you with us.
My pleasure.
952 78 4000. Rex.
What I fear is the more court cases there are against Trump, the more ammunition he's got in his box.
He's using it as a soapbox.
It's his best tool of political persuasion, and no doubt he will probably get back in. But when you see these interviews of people outside of the metropolis, outside of New York, San Fran, wherever, Los Angeles, Miami, and you go into the countryside and you go into the Bible-bashing belt, if I'm allowed to use that alliteration.
Nice alliteration, very good indeed.
Then they're absolutely besotted with Trump, completely besotted. And then you have that horrible situation about abortion. And I think that is where there is, I hate to say, the trump card.
Paul brought up an interesting point there, because it's this perception thing, isn't it? We're seen as, he said they're all corrupt. And we have that across every political thing at the moment. You know, governments are only in it for themselves. It's not the people that aren't going into politics to serve the people.
Alf wouldn't agree with that.
Well, no, Alf wouldn't agree with that, but stop trying to bait. Right, Claudio.
Well, going back to Trump and, let's say, the Bible bashing America, it's interesting because rural America support Trump.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The farmers support Trump. Same as in France, the farmers are supporting Marine Le Pen. And why is this? It's because I'd say the urban elites in cities, the ruling elites, have turned their back towards the rural communities, I think, in many ways. And that's why there's such a big division in many countries between
and they're not
urban,
exposed
and they're
like
not
the
exposed,
rural communities are.
like the rural communities are. And they don't realize the hardships that these people suffer to put food on the plates of the big cities, because of course there's a huge problem because the young people don't want to be farmers anymore. That's the problem. They don't want. They prefer working from home or working in a city, or waking up to milk the cows at 5 a.m. isn't fun. It isn't glamorous, you know. So I just feel that all around Europe there's a huge divide politically and socially between the urban populations and the rural ones, and the rural populations are voting more for Trump, for Le Pen's, etc. But also because I find like the ruling elite in urban cities are completely oblivious, and they have no idea they don't want to know what goes on in the rural world. They're out of touch. They don't understand their struggles. They don't understand all the problems that they go through, how hard it is because you hear of all these urban people who suddenly say, I'm going to go and live in the countryside and live off the land. They don't even last 5 minutes because they don't realize how tough it is having a farm, having to deal with all the many problems, from bureaucracy to rising fuel prices to competition. When you see in Spain that with all the oranges we have, you go to the supermarket and you see oranges from South Africa and grapes from Chile. Of course, that's part of the world trade now. But on the other hand, you think to oneself, we can't just put the discontent in the rural communities. It's a world phenomenon, and it really has to be addressed, because if not, it's just going to explode.
I've got a caller on the line. Sorry, excuse me, caller. Thank you for holding. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
That's okay, Giles. It's Sharon again.
Hi, Sharon.
Just to say, the previous caller is obviously a conspiracy theorist who thinks that experts are no good and they don't know what they're talking about. The American economy is doing okay, from what I hear. I do tend to listen to experts, unfortunately for me, probably. And also, Trump isn't doing too badly financially, and a lot of his cohorts are not doing too bad financially. So just to say it's the ruling elites that are wealthy and making their money on the backs of the poor. A few people on the far right side are doing exactly the same thing. They're just making a noise about of distraction to take our minds off of what they're doing, and I don't understand why people across the world really are turning to the far right when it's clearly not the answer to their problems. We need more collaboration and so on. So
but it's not the far right, Sharon. It's the populist movement.
It is sort of the far right, though, isn't it? Because that some of their policies are. Look at the attitude. Your lovely lady on the panel. I rarely hear her, but she will go for the fact that they don't treat women very well. And I don't know, as a woman...
Sharon, what about the abortion issue? Surely this is, I think, is the strongest, the most controversial issue in American politics, to my mind, and for us living over here, looking at them over there, that we thought we'd finish with this whole thing about abortion. A woman is entitled to make her own decision. And Trump is using that also as a weapon. And I think it's wrong.
Of course it is. I absolutely agree with you. Thank you, Rex.
Thank you very much for calling there, Sharon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Good morning. Giles, it's Paul.
Paul, yeah. There you go. You set them off, you see, Paul.
Well, yeah. Just Sharon calls me a conspiracy theorist, which is it's like a get out of jail free card, because does the panel know where that terminology comes? Or does Sharon know where that term comes from?
What, the term conspiracy theorist?
Conspiracy theorist.
Go on, enlighten me.
Well, from what I've been told, when Kennedy was assassinated by the CIA and the mafia because he didn't play the game, the CIA thought, right, we can't have all these people kind of going, because obviously the governments don't want us knowing what they're up to, because as we all know, we're like with the post office, that's how terrible the government treats us. They said, right, we've got all these people now saying, Kennedy was assassinated by us. So that the CIA came up with this terminology, they're conspiracy theorists. Now, I stand to be corrected, but and it's the same as we had with this awful...
The UFOs in the desert in Utah.
Well, it's like
people saying, I saw the Martians land yesterday. Are they conspiracy theorists? I don't know. But it was said.
There's various degrees of conspiracy theory. That you're on the little green men thing there, Rex.
Yes, and
I think
people talk about.
I think you peaked too early on your fuchsias? No, fuchsias. Anyway, sorry, Paul. Keep going.
It's Physalis. I always call them Physalis.
Physalis.
Physalis, yes.
I've learned something today about Physalis that I never even knew existed. Anyway,
you're going to be rushing out.
Anyway, on a lighter note, because I could tell you my theory I came up with a while ago, which is all governments are mafias. That's all they are. Where do you think the mafia got the idea for the mafia from? Because why pay tax?
Statement. It's too sweeping.
Tax is just extortion, you see. And in America, they want everybody taxed to the hills to pay for their wars, because America is just a war machine. I mean, look, they're in another war now.
But more tax in the UK than they are in the US.
Anyway, thank you for your call in there, and good to
I think you need to get Rex to talk about Foxtrot Oscar, where I used to go to.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. Well, there you are. A man of taste, charm, and ability. When did you used to come? What year?
I used to come there in between, right up till you closed. I used to come there when I used to. Joe was the barman. Joe and Willie were the barman.
Yep, Joe and Willie.
And of course, I remember.
You've got a very good memory, Paul. Very good memory. Well done.
Do you remember me? We used to see Charles Gray, the actor from James Bond.
Yes.
James Hunt used to be in there.
Absolutely.
And anyway,
listen.
This reminiscing is very good,
but not on air.
But not on air.
But thank you for the memories.
My pleasure.
All the best.
952. You see, the past is another country, and you can never escape it. Right, to the WhatsApps we go. Thank you. So the Democrats, the convention for Democrats and Republicans is that if an incumbent president chooses to stand for re-election, neither will countenance an alternative nominee. So the Democrats are stuck with Biden. That's why there is come forth on that one. And just to let us know that Julie Payne, director of the Centre for Pagan Studies and co-founder of the Doreen Valentine Foundation, she was the one who came in with the comments about St. Patrick. Okay, so
interesting.
Pagan studies. No, I know of Julie Payne.
I'm a big fan of paganism.
You're a big fan of paganism. Yeah. Also, we need more of that. I think that'd really get Trump going.
Send in the Witchfinder General.
Send in the Witchfinder General. Yeah, what is next? So we believe it or not, we're almost out of time.
No,
I know. Right.
Oh, it's gone so quickly.
We've had such fun.
So, any last thoughts, Rex? What's next in your Woke Finder? I was having a think. I saw Ski Sunday, and that was my Woke Finder General moment the other day. It used to be David Vine and Franz Klammer, and now it's become this inclusive. This white stuff is called snow, and this is a snowboard. As soon as I saw a snowboard, I was spluttering into my my After 8 Mint collection.
Well, it's funny. I get sent quite a few little clips from WhatsApp about old TV programs and stuff. And of course, the last few days we've had the one with poor old Pike and Dad's Army
passing
away. So sad. Yeah. And but it's funny that talking about wokeism, a lot of people always comment. Of course, they wouldn't get away with it today. Yeah. Showing those sort of programs.
James Hunt, for example, wouldn't get away with it full stop.
Absolutely.
Claudio, you're laughing. What any last thoughts for the day, Claudio?
Well, I'm just looking forward to the US presidential election, because I just find that, like Trump or not, he is entertaining, and there's always something to talk about, and there's always some controversy. So I suppose all media outlets are looking forward to the campaign, because it will be very colourful, and there'll be lots of drama and memorable moments.
Drama and memorable moments, somewhat like this show. My final words, of course, to the lovely Eleanor Mackenzie.
And I'm going to do my best not to be depressed by the thought of Trump being president yet again.
But we can look to the situation in Northern Ireland at the moment for a little bit of
yes, and I hope that that will continue to work well, and that we won't see anything collapse again.
And there's bongos in the background. I mean, we have run out of time. It's been my pleasure, my privilege. Thanks to my guests, Eleanor Mackenzie, Claudia de la Torre, and Rex Leyland. This show will be repeated at 7 o'clock. Stephen Ritson is up next.
The views expressed on Viewpoint by invited studio guests and callers do not constitute an opinion endorsed in any way by Talk Radio Europe.
Talk Radio Europe.
Your voice in Spain.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this programme, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit tre.radio.